Hey and welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look at a factually accurate representation of Hollywood and what it does to a person. Ask yourself this question: what do these three things have in common? Extreme body horror, Hollywood, and old white penis. Fame, that's what. I know you'd be wanting some of that. So today's video will be a step-by-step guide on how to achieve stardom and how you can get your very own spot in that priceless ivory tower where you can look down on all the dirty little peasant plebeians. All you need to do is to like, subscribe, and PayPal me $200. It's as easy as that. Directed by Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Weidmer, two conjoined twins who actually aren't physically connected at all, but two guys who love to do absolutely everything together while presumably holding hands. As their IMDb credits indicate that they've directed a handful of things together, including some episodes of the Scream TV show, as well as the modern rendition of Stephen King's Pet Sematary, a lovely little tale about the forever farm in the sky that all the good doggies get to live at. Very much taking the term, if you want something done then do it yourself literally, something that's actually brought up later in the movie. Starry Eyes was actually successfully funded through Kickstarter, and you'd be pleasantly surprised to learn, was indeed not a scam. Beginning, the movie introduces us to a woman named Sarah looking at herself in the mirror to check that she still has a body. After reassuring herself that it's still there, we learn that Sarah's a struggling actress in Hollywood who, like many, is working a job at a fast food restaurant in the meantime to help pay the bills. A tale almost as old as Hollywood itself, with young women moving there to make a name for themselves, only to find themselves stressed and struggling while forced into the monotony of everyday life while trying to make something work. Something which seems to have taken a toll on Sarah as she expresses her frustration by attempting to turn herself into a middle-aged balding man. Something that doesn't seem to work very well, evident in the next scene, as we see that she is indeed not a middle-aged balding man, but a young woman who applies for an audition for an upcoming horror movie named The Silver Scream. As always next time, Sarah attends a party with her friends, and much like real life, her friends are completely pointless and a waste of time. You can tell that she'd much rather not be doing this, but instead she's talking to someone named Danny, who you might recognise from 2008's Dead Girl, where he plays a perfectly fine, well-functioning member of society, or you might not remember if you haven't seen it, meaning that you're a normal person. He wants her involved in a movie that he's planning to make completely DIY style, in that it's probably not going to be very good. Something that she's trying to avoid giving him an answer for, because please leave me alone and stop talking to me. Antisocialness and disdain for all other living life forms being something that Sarah and I have in common. Except you. You're not like the others. I like you. After attending her audition, thinking that it seemingly went well, it would seem that it didn't go well, as the uninfused casting agents make her think otherwise, causing her to leave the room crying and beat up a poor defenseless restroom because she's racist towards toilets. After doing a little cry, she starts violently pulling more of her hair out, because why does this stuff keep growing? Only for her to realise that one of the casting agents has been watching the entire time, and that she happens to really like mentally unstable women. So after inviting her back into the audition room, they want to see Sarah act how she was acting in the restroom. Something that's a little strange to ask, considering that there's no toilet paper in here. And for some reason, Sarah falls to the ground and starts convulsing like the homeless dude I sometimes see out my window. And being a fan of screaming women with bald spots, Sarah's invited back for a second audition, but told this time it will be different. And despite only going back for an audition that's not guaranteed to land her a role, she immediately quits her job to focus on her acting career because smart financial decisions are for idiots. And after heading back for the next audition, we learn that Weinstein must be hiding in the corner behind a potted plant or something, as they tell her to remove all of her clothes while standing in front of a camera. A scene that was supposedly inspired by a story that someone told Dennis and Kevin about an audition involving David Lynch and a movie that didn't feature nudity. In other words, a really good time. Allegedly. After being asked to remove her clothes and doing just that, she's then told that she needs to let herself go for them all to see, tapping into that primal hair transplant rage that she exhibited in her previous audition. And after having a little too much fun flashing random people for the possibility of money, she's told that she's exactly what the casting agents are looking for, before noticing the absolute fire drip that one of them is wearing. And just like that, she gets a call saying that the producer wants to meet her, and all that she had to do was expose herself to a group of random people. Now, some people will do it for free. She's brought into his house before walking into my ideal scenario, being locked in a room with a creepy old dude with his knob hanging out. She's eventually let out after saying she'd rather not do that, and heads back to her roommate where she begins to regret not going forwards with it. Not because that it's something that she wanted to do, but what it now means for her to return to her mundane life that she was so desperately trying to escape. And after a humiliating return back to her old job after making a scene while quitting, she ends up talking to her friend Danny, the aspiring filmmaker who convinces her to take some ecstasy. One minute she's being coerced to play with a greasy man's hot dog, and now she's being pressured into taking drugs. brings back childhood memories. But what the super happy fun time drug ends up doing instead is give her the confidence to engage in some super happy fun time molestation and return to the producer's house. He asks her if she would give up her body to become a vessel for his voice, and by a vessel for his voice, he means a vessel for his peen, because she begins performing acts on him that can only be described as unholy. And while doing that, just like any good old-fashioned copulation party, hooded figures emerge from the shadows to make fun of how small it is. And we see that the man has a branding on his hand which is the same as the necklace from the casting agent. They're a dark and mysterious group who call themselves the Nut Watchers. Suddenly, Sarah wakes up back in her own bed, unsure if what she was just doing was even real, before suddenly feeling an excruciating pain in her stomach that causes her to barely remain conscious, leading her to drool all over her food at work with that creepy old dude's sloppy seconds. Wanting that extra salty food for himself, her boss tries to take it away from her before she slaps him and gets herself fired, because unfortunately, random assault is generally frowned upon these days. And that's only the beginning of her aggressive behaviour, as while hanging out with her friends that evening, barely even able to exist at this point, she suddenly becomes aggressive and pushes her roommate away because she's a strong independent woman who doesn't need to split the rent with anyone. And the next day, she wakes up feeling even worse and begins to puke, followed by her dream coming true. Her hair falling out. With it becoming apparent that that guy had a devil dick or something, she sees herself standing at the foot of her bed, wearing the exact same necklace that the casting agent was wearing, while looking far less sick than her real-life counterpart. The cyanide cum starts to kick in, and she begins convulsing in pain, barely clinging to life as her body is covered in sores. She manages to pull herself to the bathroom to be sick again, when she notices that her nails are bleeding, before managing to peel one of them off with ease. For the uneducated, this is what women refer to as a manicure. Trust me, I'm an expert at women. Standing in front of the mirror, finally looking like a middle-aged balding person still clinging to hope, blood begins dripping from her mouth, and slime begins dripping from her underwear. Hey girl, are you happy to see me? Or are you fucking dying? Her stomach begins to gurgle as she accidentally consumes some dairy, before we see the lactose intolerance demon inside of her moving around, and after puking up maggots, she crawls her way out of the bathroom and towards her ringing phone, to find out that it's just the producer mocking her. He tells her that her dream requires sacrifice, but so does he. But instead of sacrificing like a goat or a squirrel or something, like a normal person, Sarah logically deduces that her best course of action right now is to walk over to her friend's house, let herself in, and put everyone into permanent nap time. And that's exactly what she does, as finally this movie is about to get interesting. Outside, living in a car, is Danny and his girlfriend Erin, and inside are their other friends that have names that I simply don't know. Following Erin as she gets out to use the ensuite, aka the bushes, she heads inside as she decides she'd much rather use a toilet, before coming face to face with Sarah. Erin, being someone who has constantly criticised and belittled Sarah at every possible opportunity, is now slashed across the face before Sarah starts pulling chunks of her own hair out again, because who really needs that anyway? Once she's taken a little off the top, she heads back into the room to finish off Erin, just as one of the friends exits his bedroom and enters the bathroom without even noticing what happened to Erin. Deciding to teach him a lesson for being a typical man and being completely unaware of literally everything, she walks into his bedroom, picks up his dumbbell off the floor, and repeatedly bludgeons his girlfriend in the face with it until there's no face left to bludgeon. Then she gives it one more go for good measure, only to realise that she's had an audience this entire time, as the boyfriend is standing still, shocked in the doorway, at his girlfriend's sudden and drastic makeover. He turns to try and run away, but ends up slipping on a chunk of Sarah's hair, giving her the perfect opportunity to use his back for a nice warm place to store her knife. And noticing that Erin is somehow still alive, she sees her crawling across the kitchen, despite all of her inside juices now being outside juices, so proceeds to save the environment and recycle a plastic bag by using it to suffocate her to death. And after she's done saving the turtles, she decides that it's Danny's turn, and waits for him outside of his car. Eventually he notices her and comes out to sit with her, before suddenly she thrusts her knife towards him and repeatedly plunges it as he desperately begs her to stop. With all of her friends now being her ex-friends, because ghosting them would just be far too difficult, suddenly the hooded robed wanker watchers emerge from the shadows, as they've been watching the entire thing unfold. Yeah, they like to watch, don't they? With the sacrifice now being complete, albeit a little overboard, she's taken by a group of well-dressed people, and a ceremony is performed that sees her being reborn out of a supermarket shopping bag. And the next morning, just how all good Saturday nights should end, she rises from the grave as a new person, completely naked and now bald. She's given a gift for her new birthday, and her roommate returns home to find her beneath the sheets with glowing green eyes. the unfortunate side effect of drinking too much Mountain Dew. She tells her to lie down next to her, and for some strange reason, her roommate proceeds to listen to the strange green-eyed weirdo using a bedsheet wrong, causing Sarah to begin kissing her before choking her to death with gallons of blood. She opens up her new birthday gift to reveal that it's a dress, a wig, shoes, and her very own Hot Topic necklace. When it comes down to it, Starry Eyes is a tale almost as old as time itself. If you want anything done, then you must brutally murder all of your friends and accept the old man wiener. It's also a tale about Hollywood eating people up and spitting them out in the name of fame, while highlighting some of the extreme lengths that some people will go just to have a slight chance at success. A sadistic, cult-like organization has complete control over whoever wants to succeed and abuses their power to ensure they get what they want. A cascading effect of bad decisions, with extremely desperate people trying to achieve their dreams, is a recipe for disaster. Moral of the story: have no dreams and become a hermit. So before we finish up, I'd like to just give a big thank you and a massive shout out to all of the YouTube members and patrons. The people who every month continue to go out of their way to help support the channel, something which I'm incredibly thankful for and really appreciate. If you're interested in becoming a YouTube member or a patron yourself, not only are you just generally being a big help, but you also get access to a few little bonuses, like being able to join the private Discord server, where you can then see uncensored versions of all videos going forwards. So starting off with this week's new YouTube signups, a massive thank you to Glossy, DeGames Kill Count and Iris Fan, Daniel Combs, Emil Nielsen, Sin, Patriarchy Enjoyer 69, 47, Lance Jelinsky, Feisty Squirrel, No Name, Starlord, Twice, Logan Wedderburn, Actual For Real, Fiji, Lumpy Bread, Mike Crane, Psy81, Christopher Franklin, GB Asker, Ben Road Knight, Julian Suzat, Yuval Exme, Zeno, and Lexi Tank Todd. Now moving over to this week's new Patreon signups, a massive thank you to Ronald Strauss, Beazelbub, Rangasiri, John, Rich Squid, Jonathan Reyes, Cullian McKenna, Nicholas L. Chapman, Thom Warhammer, Cliff Williams, Morby, Jennifer Tilley, Hollow, Arco, Becky Gall, Nate, Nicholas Hansen, Andrew Simpson, Dylan Knight, Dan Etrata, Alec Cadenhead, Gerardo Carrillo, Agent Ash, E.G. Griffin, Jason Welch, The Jammy Row, Tuan Chu, Eric, Matthew Irwin, Dark Cross, Adam Schwinn, Brian Pazilla, I'm Lone Faded, Karjin Bellamans, and Jolvan Edwards. Once again, a massive shout out to all of the YouTube members and patrons, and a big thank you to everyone else for watching.